6:30 p.m. Monday the 30th, and we of course are having a look at, drum roll please, Messier 45, the Pleiades, at 450 light-year distant, closest open cluster to our own solar system that I am aware of. And here is our view. Now notice the way it turned up in the field of view. I did all the, because I have the ZWO unit mounted, I didn't want to have to remove it to put on an eyepiece and then do the 3-star alignment using an eyepiece and put it all back in and have it out of focus. So what I basically did is just use the finder scope, centered everything up at the crosshairs, and that's how she turned out. Not bad. You know what I'm going to try now? Let's see if we can go center on Jupiter, and I will do a planetary alignment, a planetary imaging. There is a function, and I got to figure out how to get to it. If I go back, let's see, how do I go back? Well, that's not going to take me back, is it? All right, that's just going to give us a single field view of Pleiades, and if I click on it a couple of times, it's supposed to, oh well, let's just cut this off, and then I will see if I can figure out how to get back to the menuing system. I'll just close it out. Don't like doing that, but let's go to planetary video stack, and we will open that up. Let's see what she looks like. Oh, that's for image stacking. Oh, okay, so what you have to do is capture the image first using ASI cap. Let's take a look at that. All right, we want the 0 camera. Let's see what it does. Oh, look how the stars are very diminished. Those are basically second and third, fourth magnitude stars. Some are in the fifth, etc., etc., and that's how bright they look when you are doing planetary imaging. Let me go on to Jupiter, and then we will set our settings and exposure times to see if we can get a halfway decent view through the 80mm ST80. All right, we are now slewing to Jupiter. And it looks like it's going to end up pretty much near the center of the field. Not bad. All right, so we're going to want to do some zooming. So let's start with that. There's Jupiter. There's 3 of the Galileans. Not sure how well focused we are. I'm not seeing the bands. It's definitely over brightened. So why don't we cut back on the imaging time. Now notice how the planetary disk got smaller as we reduced the imaging time. All right, so it says seconds here. So let's try this. Ooh, that's not good. 1 to 2,000ths. Let's reduce the gain. See what happens next. All right, well, it's still a bit fuzzy, so you know what I might do? I'm going to just adjust the focus just a wee bit and see if we can improve it. Okay, I went intrafocally a little bit. That disturbed, of course, the alignment. What do you think? I can't tell whether or not things sharpened up or not. But I thought I saw, yeah, there's 3 Galileans there. I think it got softer. I'm going to go extrafocally a little bit. Let's see if it gets sharper. Okay, let's try the zoom function now. It's not doing too badly there. 150, 160%. That looks like a view that you'd get through about 350x eyepiece. All right, well, can't do that high on an 80mm. Maybe if we had the 6-inch. ED. I'm going to go to 100%, and I'm going to try one more focus by going a little outside focus, just a teeny turn. Oh well, there you can see why I don't do planetary imaging. Not with this scope anyway. 80mm is only going to give about a second and a half of resolution, but we should be, at the eyepiece I typically see as many as 4 bands. What we are seeing here are 3 Galileans, 1, 2, and 3 way out there. Don't see any shadow being cast. I don't seem to be, oh, you know what I'm going to try now? Let's see if we have, nope, we do not have, I have a frame number. Let's let it go ahead and gather some frames. Alright, and let's drop that gain again all the way down to 1 just to see what happens with it. Now what I had hoped is we'd also have the capacity to change the histogram, but it doesn't appear as though you can with the planets. Alright, that be enough for Jupiter. Okay, despite my best efforts, I did a really good job of aligning all 3 stars, Vega, Deneb, and Capella, to the east. It looks like whatever value is in this database is incorrect for the location of Messier 77. You can see it right down there. Data to be accumulated tomorrow on lookup. I'm using 5 exposures of 5 seconds each. Let's push it to 10 now and see if we get any enhancement. 10 is probably the best we're going to do on a night such as this. The sky hasn't really improved much over the previous evening. You can see the core of the galaxy right about there. Doesn't really look Messier class to me, but it's supposed to be. So that would be our look at Messier 77. Okay, just a couple of degrees from Messier 77 is NGC 936, and this is as close to a galaxy as I'm seeing on the screen. I'm also figuring I ought to play a little bit with, there we go, there's a better view, darker view. We're seeing a bit of a patchwork on the screen. But yeah, clearly there's a galaxy off over here with a bright central core and some extensions going off left and right. Messier 77 should have been decently viewed through a 6-inch scope, and NGC 936 through a 10. And when I say decently viewed, it means the smallest aperture that would show you, reveal the galaxy, maybe show the core and some extensions outside of the core. Giving you a sense of some kind of orientation and a sense of a frontier. See if I can pick some more out here. Here we're looking for a planetary nebula. NGC 1535. A 5-inch telescope should give a good view if it were in a decent part of the sky. And when looking at the screen, I don't believe it's either of these studies or that one there. I think it's this bluish study off here. Oftentimes you do get highly ionized gases from dying central stars and planetary nebulas. Not satisfied with this location on the screen, but let's do a little bit of digging here. So, is it one of these? No, I suspect it is this bluish glob right here that is our NGC 1535. Well, NGC 1647 is a 10-inch or an 8-inch rated open cluster in Taurus. We're going to have to go ahead and set our band passes here to get a look at it. It looks like it's a fairly large cluster. All of these stars are probably members right in through here, offset to the left-hand side. I'm going to play with adjustments just a little bit more. Typically you want to be down about here when you start seeing the speckling on the screen. So there is our look at a rather largish open cluster in Taurus. How about Messier 1? Well, I would say with this view of the Crab Nebula M1 that I'm going to knock off for the time being, recharge the battery, and come back out later on when we can have a look at a couple of studies near the belt of Orion, one of which would be the Horsehead, and the other would be the Flame Nebula. There's also a Messier, Castor the Friendly Ghost nebulation there, so we'll have a look at that, and perhaps another view. Oh, NGC 1973-5 at 5 and 7. So we have a few studies later on in the evening after we have an opportunity to go ahead and let the sky rotate a little bit with the Earth spinning and get the battery charged up in this camera. So if we don't hear from me again later on, Carpe Noctem. Okay, it's now a little after 7 on December 30th, Monday. We're looking at a 1-second exposure of Messier 3042, and one of the things we can get out of this is we're going to get a view right here of the trapezium. Let's see if we can expand it out a little bit. All right, actually the trapezium is right here in this location here, and these are the basic progenitor stars that are illuminating a lot of the gases, the reflective nebulosity, etc. here. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and make a 2-second exposure, and we'll see what that looks like. See the nebulosity expanding, and ooh, this is interesting. There's a preview function here, and that's good because I don't really want it storing the images on the computer. Once again, we have access to, ooh, nice dark sky there now. Let's see what else we can do here. Alright, that darkens it up even more. Probably a bit too much. There we go, we're expanding our nebulosity again. Once again, this is a 2-second exposure with M43 located there, the conch shell. So now we'll push it up to 5 seconds. I'm surprised I can't actually dial it in. We'll initiate the image, and you can see it being developed in the lower hand corner. Now we are way too overbright, so we're going to manipulate the image now using the controls associated with the histogram, and that gives us a good view right there. Quite nice. We're a bit overexposed in this region here, but we're bringing out the fainter nebulosity. We will do one more leap to 10 seconds exposure. You should see the nebulosity expand into this region here and there. There's some nice texture down in this part. Sorry folks if the image is not lining up at the center of the screen. Every time you boot this mount up though, it never remembers what your previous model was, unlike the Gemini 2 mount, which I much prefer over this particular mount, but it is lighter, and I can port it. I can carry this mount around even with the 6-inch scope on it, so that's a nice virtue of it. Of course, it's not exactly the same kind of a burden that the 150 ED would be carrying it around. So here we go. Alright, that's a 10-second exposure. Now we'll do one more at 30 seconds just to get an idea of just how limited the sky transparency is right now. Because this is one of the reasons why you'd probably want a smaller scope when you're dealing with bad sky conditions, because you can't take full advantage of the aperture unless you're doing multi-image stacking later on. In terms of real-time imaging, you're basically limited by sky conditions, and if the sky conditions are superb, you're limited by your scope. Well, that does it there, folks. Let's move on and have a next view. What we're seeing here is NGC 2024. It's the Flame Nebula. The bright star just below it is Alnitak in the belt of Orion. Not the best views. I've gotten better views through the 150 ED using the Rev 2, but the conditions tonight are generally inferior to anything that I might have gotten there. So I doubt we're going to have much success with our next study, which is an IC and associated with the Horsehead Nebula. The Flame Nebula, by the way, ordinarily would give a decent view through an 8-inch scope. There are a number of other studies we might want to have a look at in this region. We can go to Messier. Let's go to NGC 2071, a 10-inch study. It looks like it's a open cluster. NGC 2071 is an open cluster in Orion. It's 10-inch, should be revealed through a 10-inch telescope. It's probably located in this region here, but what really captures my eye is the neighboring Messier nebulosity, Messier 78, which can be seen through a 5-inch telescope with good advantage. I'm not seeing the open cluster anywhere in particular on the screen. I could manipulate the controls here on the histogram. You can see that darkened up the screen nicely. So let's have a look at what I call Casper the Friendly Ghost cluster right there. We'll center up on that Messier 78. Okay, we saw a slight jump in Messier 78 from about this location here to there. I should have better really pointed out more with the cursor. Now we might be able to get a little bit of an enhancement by using this e-zoom function. There's the nebulosity with the 2 stars that look like ghostly eyes peering out in our general direction. So that is our view of Messier 78. Well, no sense of nebulosity associated with this cluster here, unless there's some really faintish views of it there. Obviously, Messier 42 and 43 are off to the left. So I do believe all these studies are north, so north is to the right. And there is a view. I think we're going to end on the flame just in case I was over-magnifying it earlier, and we will call that our Carpe Noctem view. Interestingly enough, we are not getting a particularly good view of the Flame Nebula at this point. What I could try to do is increase the exposure time. You know, it'd be interesting if I could manually input it, but it looks like you're pretty much limited. We're at maximum gain right now. The exposure time is set for 10 seconds, and it's repeatedly collecting it. And we're not getting anywhere near as good a view as we got earlier. Doesn't appear as though it's allowing me to change it. I wonder what this capture function is. There we go. Let's have another look. Okay, now I am seeing some hints of the flame right in here. Could be that we need to make some adjustments. Ah, yes, we are having to make some adjustments to the histogram in order to faithfully see. All right. Once again, sometimes having too many tools complicates the process. But there is our Flame Nebula right here, with Alnitek in Orion's belt, quite nearby. And with that, we're going to say Carpe Noctem.